this week. Thank you, Zoom. I'll just get rid of that. It comes up with a message for me. Thank you. We've got a Sunday today. I'm calling it Sharing Sunday. I want to do it at least once a month, or we have one or two of you come along with me. I'm going to do a few minutes, and then Leslie's going to do some, and Jill's coming on after me to share a little bit about themselves and about Zeal and the unity theme, which is how we are coping against all odds and with all odds, and we're surviving and learning through this particular time of our lives. We never stop learning, because I have a chance now to let you hear it again and again. It's one of my favorites. Now, Sylvia, I know you're in your 90s. I don't know whether, like Charles Fillmore, the co-host of Unity, you jump out of bed at 94 and say, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and leap forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me now. Is that you? Do you do that? You don't have to answer that. It's not easy sometimes, is it? But at 94, my goodness, I find it very hard even at my age. Most of us have felt the need for the power of zeal over the last month, because we were navigating through these blessings and challenges. And as I say, nothing we can't handle with the power of that wonderful creative spirit of which we are each an individual expression of. And what wonderful expressions we are. We can't have one without the other. We are all one. The definition of zeal is enthusiastic, driven devotion, especially for a cause we strongly believe in, whether politics, religion, or a charity, or any other interest. Now, as we become aware of universal spiritual laws, we know that they all evolve together. And what we put out, we get back. As we do unto others, so shall we be done by, the golden rule. And we know these 12 powers don't just stand on their own. I'm reminded to use zeal in conjunction with unconditional love, wisdom, and understanding. It's a volcanic power, this power of zeal. And if it gets too overzealous, I remember one Youth Thought, I think it was Johnny Coleman, one Youth Thought leader, saying that she felt so enthusiastic about something. She was building her temple, the Universal Life Temple in Chicago. She was so enthusiastic that she said she had a hospital experience. She went over the top with it, and it just got her out of balance. And we've all seen the damage that misplaced zeal can do. We've all been the victims of it. But we know it's a boomerang power. What comes out comes back. The universal laws don't change, but we do. So the sooner we come in line with them, the better. And as I was saying on a group class yesterday, it's good that we can promote these spiritual laws because they work whether we know it or not. So I'd like as many people to know them so that at least we've all got a chance to create good in our lives, expand our consciousness, and go to the full bloom of our experience, which is in that tiny seed of the flower. I saw the zeal of that happen the other day. There's a crack in the concrete in my front steps, and there's a blade of grass growing through it. My goodness, the energy, zest, and vigor. Spirit just wants to be expressed, and really, I don't think it cares how it's expressed. It just wants to be expressed and expanded. So where did this word originate as we use it today? Well, according to the historian Josephus, there were three main Jewish groups at the time of Jesus: the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Essenes. Don't think the Essenes are mentioned in the Bible, but we've heard a lot about them from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the writings of Edward Bordeaux Sezliki, which were I loved those books when I first discovered them in the Theosophical Society. They were a real inspiration to me. But there's also another group mentioned in the Bible called the Zealots. They combined the practices of the Pharisees, who had strict allegiance to the law of Moses, those 10 commandments, but they sought the downfall of the Roman occupation at the time. Simon the Canaanian, the disciple of the month, written up in Acts 1:3 and Luke 6:15, is Simon the Zealot. It was the Zealots who stood up to the Romans on the mountain of Masada. They were there till the end. They were eventually beaten by the Roman forces, who were quite zealous themselves in making sure they're going to capture that particular fortress. So I don't want to take too long, but I want to move on to something here that is quite important. How are we expressing our zeal? Are we over the top? Most extroverts are, or we are doing it in an introvert sort of way. I think I'm half between both of those, and I think we all have moods where we feel like being an extrovert and other times where we are feeling just quiet and introspective, I think is the word. But zeal, once again, is the affirmative impulse of existence, and its command is to move ahead. We are growing from Adam to Christ, whether we like it or not, because spirit seeks fuller expression. There's a poem by Oliver Wendell Holmes, 1809 to 1894. You may have heard me say it again, but I like it so much, so I'm going to do it one more time. It's a beauty. Build thee more stately mansions, O my soul. As the swift seasons roll, leave thy low vaulted past, let each temple nobler than the last shut thee from heaven with a dome more vast, till thou art free, leaving thine outgrown shell by life's unresting sea. So to sum up, at times we can become very obsessed with our zeal, overzealous. And we should, when I look back to myself, I say I must use love, understanding and wisdom when I use zeal. So finally, another little verse. I've been big on verses this week. I've been jotting them down in books. I'd say this is about balance. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a person should hear a little music, read a little poetry, see a fine picture every day of their life in order that worldly cares may not obliterate the sense of the beautiful which Spirit has implanted in the human soul. So, okay, we've got zeal, it's got its purpose, and it's also used in line with other parts of our 12 powers, which we've been studying over the last months. So that's it from me. So I'd like, as it's Sharing Sunday, I'm going to cross over to Jill. Jill, it's been a while since we've had you on. Welcome along, and thanks for sharing with us today. So if you unmute. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good to be joining in from a long distance away, but with Zoom it's all possible.
Yeah.
How we do anything is how we do everything.
Wow.
And zest or zeal, as Bill said, doesn't need to be kept for the big things, but it's the everyday activities from when we wake up in the morning and work through our day. And as we've heard from Bill, zeal is that divine quality already within us. We just have to awaken to it. It's the zest for living, an excitement and enthusiasm, and on a cosmic level, a constant movement forward. Long before I joined Unity, after I had become disillusioned with the mainstream Christian doctrine, I envisioned God as that creative energy that called everything into the fullness of being. So as I reflected on the power of zeal, I understood that it was a quality of source, urging all life to express, urging us to go forward and accomplish the seemingly impossible. It's as if we experience a desire which takes root in our imagination, but then we have to put it into action. And it is that zeal that helps us get excited. The action may take some effort, but zeal gives us the feeling to say, I can do it. However, zeal needs us to participate. There's a little story of the two farmers in a very drought-ridden area. There hadn't been rain for a long time. Their crops were failing, and they got together and they said, we're going to pray for rain. So one farmer went away and prayed fervently every day to God for rain. The other farmer went away and prayed for guidance what he could do about the situation. And he saw that from a lake in the distance, a small lake, he could dig a channel and so get water to his crops. And when they met, the other farmer said, but I've been praying every day and it still hasn't rained. And of course, the farmer said, well, I wanted to get in touch with my higher self, with my higher spirit, and get the guidance. So he became a channel. We all become channels when we're in touch with this spirit, channels that allow the zeal to flow out, but also to flow back. As I said, we receive an idea, we place it in our imagination, and in working with zeal, we say, yes, we can do it. Yes, I can do it. And as Bill said, we combine zeal with our other divine qualities or powers. We tell ourselves we have faith in our higher self, and then we allow ourselves to be guided. We start to focus on the idea with strength and power, the power of love, the urge of the spirit to keep expressing through us. And we need to tap into wisdom and understanding, or as Bill said, we become overzealous and we may go crazy. We don't want zeal to run away with our judgment. I remember a long time ago, I started going to Ian Gawler's Living with Cancer seminars, and I became so enthusiastic and so passionate about it that I had an acquaintance who had been diagnosed with bowel cancer, only an acquaintance, not a close friend. And I said to her, you've just got to come along to these sessions. I'll come as your support person. This is what you really have to do. She did come along, but later on she said to me, you nearly pushed me away. You were so over enthusiastic. So we have to temper this enthusiasm. And in order to do this, we only really have to go one step at a time. But if there's no momentum in our life, no movement, will become stuck like a car being bogged. It takes a lot of effort to get the car out of the rut, but once the momentum takes over, it's up and running. And so with us. With lack of zeal, we're not connected to our passion. We're just in survival mode. And maybe we need to step into higher possibilities. As Bill said, with lockdown, we may have lost some zeal. We may have experienced some difficult times, feeling flat, unenthusiastic. I had a period like that just recently, and I really just couldn't get going. And I'm not a dancer, but I taught myself the steps to that catchy Jerusalem. You know, the Jerusalem, the little tune and song that went viral with the steps. And I practiced and practiced those steps until I conquered it. And it really did. It was like a rising tide. It rose my levels of enthusiasm and helped me to stop from becoming stagnated. So first of all, we have to do the work within. And then we take this out into the world. We're not in charge of fixing everything out there, but only in charge of our inner work, always marching to the sound of our own drum. But if we do things that bring us joy, we can generate zeal more easily and move forward. It's as if we're charged from the inside out. As Bill said again, zeal can be quiet and thoughtful. It doesn't have to be over the top. We can be fully engaged and excited and curious and open-minded, but still authentic and full of zeal. So zeal helps us from experiencing life as boring and pointless. We have the opportunity to do something different. It allows us to ask, what's next? What is the next thing we can do to make the situation a little better? If we stop and notice what is going on, we can sense what we need to do. We can shift from have to having the opportunity to. So take the moment when you can either make everyone around you feel miserable, or you can have a shift to expand your purpose about being together, about seeing something through someone else's eyes. Thus, we can call forth zeal at any time. It's what keeps us moving forward. No matter what the situation is, there is a divine program within us all that allows us to move forward. So often, in spite of limiting conditions, if we are willing to listen to intuitive guidance, we can say, yes, I can. Yes, we can. There's a story in the Hindu tradition of Lord Rama, who in that tradition was the ideal son of God, as Jesus was in our tradition. And it's a story about Lord Rama had all his workmen building a huge big bridge. They were carrying sand and soil and building and labouring. And amongst all their labours was this little squirrel who would run around every day, run up to the top of the mound of dirt, shake himself, get rid of all the sand, run back again and continue doing this. And the story goes that Lord Rama said to the squirrel, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm doing my little bit. I'm doing what I'm called forth to do. I'm doing as I can to carry the soil, the sand to the top of the mountain." And mythologically, the story goes that Lord Rama stroked the squirrel's back, and that's how the squirrel has two stripes on its back. So zeal and enthusiasm will flow naturally when we realize that we have gifts together. We all have something that we can contribute in our interaction with others and giving from a place of awareness. And so it is. Namaste.
Wow, words of wisdom. Thank you, Jill. Good to have you back on the screen, and words of wisdom indeed on zeal. Now we're moving on in time, but we were going to have a song a little bit later, but we won't have it because I think it's more important to keep on with what we're doing here, because Leslie is going to screen share with us her experiences. Welcome along, Leslie.
Thank you, and I think I'm virtually redundant. Those talks were amazing. I'm drawing very heavily on Paul Hasselbeck and Cher and Bill Holton on this, but here I go. As we've heard, Charles Fillmore at 94 years old could leap out of bed sizzling with zeal. But my excuse for not being able to do that is that I was born at 11:45 at night, so I've never been a morning person. But Paul Hasselbeck says that we're all wired for zeal. The Big Bang, or the Little Bang, as science now calls it, created the multiverse, and the multiverse holds the key to the power of zeal. The universe is made up of less than 1% of visible matter, and we're literally made of star stuff. We're made of the supercharged energies of the Little Big Bang event that created our known universe. We come wired for movement. We are micro-universes of exploding potential. The only difference between us and the great spiritual teachers is that they harness these energies of the Big Bang by their consciousness. They were able to use their 99% spiritual energies to master their 1% of human energies. And Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna and others have been the examples of how to do that. But when times get tough, or just we go down the track with our project, we might find ourselves fizzling instead of sizzling. Does that sound familiar? I was talking the other day, and it's amazing that you mentioned the cancer retreats, Jill, because when Jim and I went along to the first cancer retreat, we came home and we got rid of the microwave, and we were born again vegetable juices. Over time, that energy has fizzled, and we now use the microwave, and we buy bottled vegetable juice that we frequently forget to drink. But here's the thing. By nature, we are spiritual beings with sizzle in our genes. Our genetic makeup is wired for action and movement, for sizzle, not fizzle. So how do we make this sizzle work for us? Our New Thought elders and the Indigenous people of all nations have known it. The door to sizzle is our consciousness. We can also use life to energize whatever we were doing. And when zeal starts to wane, we use strength to stay the course. And that sees us through. Sorry, I've just missed a bit here. We can use sizzle, to turn up the heat. And there's an acronym for calling on the power of zeal to the most elevated level. And this is Paul Hasselbeck's formula. The heat is the acronym. So the first letter is honor our own uniqueness. There is no one else quite like you. Turn up the sizzle by being your authentic self. Honor the inner pull to be you. Listen to your uniqueness. And you've, Jill and Bill have both mentioned uniqueness. Now, I've been doing a course with Geo from Hawaii, and Geo fairly sizzles with zeal, but that reminded me of a totally unique fellow, Levitt Thomas, who took us for our chaplaincy training. And one day I was walking up the hill towards the class and not really looking forward to it. I was certainly lacking zeal. Those American people were so confident and so like Billy Graham in the way they could speak. And as I crossed the road, I thought I was going mad because I heard bagpipes, and I love the bagpipes. And I thought, well, this is a message from the universe. You know, I'm hearing things, but I'm being reassured. Anyway, I got into the hall, and there was Levitt, who's a fairly large man, dressed in a kilt and playing the bagpipes. It was St. Patrick's Day. And he used the term zealosity. He was so full of zeal, and he expressed it in totally unique ways. In fact, he also coined the term wicked good fun zealosity. So E, eliminate old beliefs, habits, and assumptions that block your good. This calls on the power of release. Maybe to release negative self-talk or unhealthy habits and replace them with patterns that will support health and happiness. And I find that tapping is a great tool for this. I can deny what I don't want and affirm the good. And Dawson Church and Paul Hasselbeck are both great exponents of tapping. A, adapt a bias for action. The atoms that make up our bodies are wired for action. They're humming with activity, waiting for us to tap into our natural born energies. Prayer and meditation are engines of sizzle. As Charles Fillmore said, They're the most accelerated forms of mind action. So our meditation schedule is non-negotiable. Sorry, folks, but there it is. T, temper your zeal with wisdom. Zeal without wisdom might lead to impulsive behaviour that we later regret, and that's been mentioned before, and certainly I could give you plenty of examples where I've gone over the top with my zeal about certain ideas that I've later regretted my vehemence over. We can also use life to energise whatever we're doing. And when zeal starts to wane, we use strength to stay the course that sees us through to the goal. We may also use the power and will to control thoughts about quitting. And I really like that story of the geese. Honking and asking for help is another way that might help us stay the course. And on Friday night, we were allowed to have a gathering here of the people on our level in our apartments. And we celebrated one of the people here, her having the zeal and staying the course to overcome cancer. She got the diagnosis that she was completely cancer-free. She'd been through all those stages of chemo and radiation, and so we were able to have some champagne to celebrate that occasion. Inner zeal is transformative. It gives colour to life. Zeal that is directed inwardly is constant, lasting, durable, and peaceful. Catherine Ponder says, zeal gives lustre, colour, and radiance to the personality, just as the sparkle of a diamond gives it beauty. And praise is a great stimulator of zeal, and that's sort of, I think, what Jill was doing in her dancing, and what we saw the agape people, they're singing. Praise or thanksgiving and gratitude connect us to the divine energy of the universe. And as our friend Joe Dispenza would say, they are the magnets that attract our highest good to us. Or, as unity teachings say, where thoughts combined with intense feeling go, energy flows. So, our power of zeal can propel us toward our divine purpose. It's said that we do what we love. If we do what we love, we never have to work a day in our lives. And I think David Attenborough is a fabulous example of this. His zeal for conservation of our species is totally inspirational. Howard Thurman says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Thus, this zeal and enthusiasm will result in selfless service to others. Our greatest influence will be the changes we make in ourselves. And as Carolyn Mace says, we don't have to say a word because our energy speaks. And so I've got an affirmation for us to finish on. It's not Charles, but it's, I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. How do you feel about saying that? I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. Yay.
Whoa. Look at us all. We're so enthusiastic. That's revved us up. Thank you very much, Leslie. That was fantastic. Food for thought. And thank you to Jill. I know we've gone a bit over with it, but it